Good evening and welcome to our council meeting on May 21st, 2025. I'd like to acknowledge this week is National Public Works Week, where we celebrate our wonderful public works teams that bring essential services and programs to our community. Their impact is inestimable, with our staff contributing to keeping our roads safe, ensuring quality drinking water, building facilities and maintaining infrastructure for our growing community, managing and maintaining our fleet of cars, trucks, and emergency vehicles, stewarding our waterways, trees, and environment, optimizing our landfills and waste collection, and above all, advancing the quality of life for all. Now I'll call on Will Short, our regional clerk, to conduct the roll call.
Thank you, Chair. Chair Redmond.
Present.
Councillor Craig.
Present.
Councillor Erb.
Present.
Councillor Foxton.
Present.
Councillor Harris. Councillor Hunick.
I don't know. Oh, yes, it is. Present.
Councillor James. I see you, but we can't hear you. Councillor Liggett.
Present.
Oh, there we go. Councillor Liggett. Thank you. Councillor McCabe. Councillor Nowak. Councillor Rodriguez.
Present.
Councillor Solonen. Councillor Shantz.
Present.
Councillor Ivanovic.
Here.
And Councillor Wolf.
Present.
Thank you, Chair.
I'd like to acknowledge that the land that we gather on today is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabe, and the Chinootan peoples. In doing so, I want to reflect on what it means to be doing important community work that we are engaging in collectively today, and also in my own individual relationship to this land. As a settler, one of the most important aspects of my individual journey towards truth and reconciliation has been to listen. And I am continually grateful that the community shares their stories and concerns with me. As well as chair of the region, I know I carry a large responsibility to ensure that it is not just myself as an individual listening and acting, but that as a government we are listening and creating action within the community. I am offering this acknowledgement as one of the many actions I am personally and the region largely is taking on our journey towards reconciliation. We acknowledge the enduring presence of the Indigenous people with whom we share this land today, their achievements and their contributions to our community. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, we have no presentations. We do have delegations. I will take them as they're listed on the agenda, and if you're attending in person, please proceed to the podium where you will be called on to speak. You have 5 minutes to speak if you registered before the deadline and 3 minutes if you registered afterwards. Additionally, some general reminders. If you conduct yourself in any of the following manners, it will result in an immediate removal from the meeting. Interrupting councillors, staff, or other delegations. Derogatory statements about councillors, staff, or others. Turning your camera on at inappropriate times, or hate speech or defamatory comments. One last reminder for delegations, please do not take offense if following your presentation there are no questions from council. This is council's time to really listen and reflect upon the opinions and ideas shared with us from our community members. And a quick reminder to members of the audience, you're asked to maintain order, and this means you may not address council without permission of the chair, interrupt anyone, disrupt the meeting with unreasonable noise or vocal expressions such as applause, booing, or cheering, or displaying signs or posters. Our first delegation is Tanner Bergsma from Waterloo. Tanner, if you'd come to the podium, you have 5 minutes and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening, Chair, Council members, and members of the public. My name is Tanner Bergsma. I'm a 22 years old autistic student, multinational activist, and former homeless youth. This evening, I'm here to respectfully request that the Regional Council consider the inclusion of an additional clause within the current motion to address the urgent and ongoing housing crisis in our community. I speak from lived experience. I came from nothing. I spent nearly 2.5 years without stable housing, sleeping in sidewalks, stairwells, and in overcrowded shelters with no space left. I know firsthand what it feels like to be reduced to a statistic, to be cold, hungry, and unseen by the very systems designed to provide protection and support. And at 19 years old, whilst I was trying to survive, I lost my daughter. So I'm not here tonight for recognition. I'm here because I've seen what happens firsthand when we fail to act. I've seen people freeze to death on these streets, and I'm here to say survival should never be the benchmark we set for human dignity. Since April of 2024, someone that I know, an elderly resident of this region, has been living in their car. They have now frostbite on their feet. That's not a distant story. That's not a statistic. That is happening right now here in this region, while luxury condo towers just rise blocks away. That is not fortunate. This is inhumane. We talk about economic strain, affordability, and uncertainty in the motion before you. And you're right, people are struggling. But while we discussed inflation and tariffs, let's not forget that some people don't even have a front door to lock behind them. Waterloo Region has received millions in federal housing funding, yet there is still no clear immediate plan to address the housing crisis. Thousands are being left behind. We are not facing a housing challenge as stated in the committee report. This is a housing emergency, one that is structural, moral, and political. When a young person sleeps in a stairwell, when a mother moves from couch to couch with her kids, when a senior must choose between a bed and her meal, this is not moral. This council should not be focused on optics. It should be focused on action. The current pace of luxury development is widening the gap between rich and poor, while the social fabric of our community is being torn apart. You are building a region where developers flourish and vulnerable people are left to suffer in silence. That is not governance, that is neglect. So tonight, I'm here to respectfully ask that the council add a specific amendment to the motion brought forward by the Administration and Finance Committee, one that is small, realistic, and urgently needed. Quote, that urgently council directs staff to engage in individuals with lived experience of homelessness alongside local service providers to co-develop a clear, time-bound, affordable, and supportive housing action plan by the end of 2025, end quote. Let the people who have lived through it help shape the solution. You already have experts who can tell you what needs to happen. You just need to listen. I'm willing to help. I will sit at that table. I will help you reach the people whose voices are too often left out of the room, because I've been one of them. This addition would strengthen your motion. It would make sure that housing stays a core part of this region's plan to protect the vulnerable, especially in times of economic uncertainty. You talk about stimulus strategies. Let's make sure that these strategies don't just build concrete, they build our community. Let's make sure growth means everyone rises, not just those at the top. Everyone deserves a chance at a life in society. We have that duty. We have that responsibility as leaders to uplift our community. Because if we don't take care of our people, there won't be a strong region to build. There won't be anyone left. You cannot grow a future.
Tanner, you have 1 minute left.
Thank you. You cannot grow a future on frozen sidewalks and forgotten lives. So I'll end with this. If it were your child sleeping in that sidewalk, if it were your child sleeping in that stairwell, if it were your mother freezing in that car, would you wait for another study, or would you act like their life depended on it? Because for hundreds of people in this region, it does. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanner. We have a question. Councillor Hunick.
Thank you, Chair Redmond. Thank you, Tanner, for your delegation. I'm just wondering if you're familiar with the co-creators table, which is part of the Plans and Chronic Homelessness, and how your suggested addition to the motion would differ from that.
Yes, that is a great question. That action plan, as far as to date, has not been implemented quick enough. And my concern is that the committee is not hearing the people. We are seeing that we have to remove the people from the homeless encampment by December 1st with no clear action or plan on how we are going to do so. And so I'm just requesting that this council, by also working with the people and working with staff and working with the people in the encampments, we can find a solution that works.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tanner. I have no further questions. Thank you for coming in and sharing your thoughts. The next delegation is Stephen Palmate, co-chair, Wilmot Civic Action Group. Welcome, Stephen. You have the podium and you have 5 minutes.
5 minutes. means I must have registered on time. I think in the agenda it says I'm going to be speaking about Honda's pause in growth at their Alliston plant. I'm actually only going to touch on that because there's been lots going on in our community since I registered. Most recently, Chair Redmond, your interview last week with the Kitchener Record. I'd like to begin with that interview with Louise D'Amato. It reminds me a lot of Margaret Thatcher. You remind me a lot of Margaret Thatcher, a very powerful woman. Does anybody do this if you know a lot of young faces in the crowd? Anybody? Margaret Thatcher? Mostly over here, not so much over here. The Iron Lady, she was called the Iron Lady. Her catchphrase being, "There is no alternative." And she was called the Iron Lady because she'd stick to her policies regardless of what her constituents wanted, regardless of the impacts to her parliamentary democracy, regardless of sound reason or impact on the people she ruled over. There is no alternative is a great way to, retroactively excuse any decisions that you make because it seems as though they were inevitable. So keep that in mind, all you young people over here with Tanner. You're probably going to hear lots of reasons why the encampment, we just couldn't move fast enough. It was inevitable. There was no alternative. But you'll find that things move very, very quickly when those in power want them to move very, very quickly. Anyway, returning to the interview. Louise D'Amato, she begins, this is a major, highly controversial development. She's referring to the Wilmot Land Assembly. Yet it's rolling full speed ahead without a single public meeting or any information from the public about the costs, financial or otherwise. That made me raise my eyebrow. What other costs might there be besides financial costs? Our ability to grow food, the quality of our drinking water, is that a financial cost? The public's trust in our democratic institution, is that a cost? But there is no alternative, is there, Chair Redmond? You respond to Louise, we're very confident it will continue because all the due diligence we've done this far points in the direction of continuing the assembly. Due diligence. The same due diligence that was exhibited when you hired a mercenary cash cropper from Strathroy outside of our region, paid him in our tax dollars to shred standing corn a month prior to its harvest. Is that due diligence? Now, in some cases, the topsoil is simply washing away into the storm drains. Has there been any due diligence on the liability that may cause downstream in Brant County? They don't have a groundwater aquifer like we do to filter their drinking water. So they have to pay to filter out the sediment that we're washing down the drain at present. And in fact, now I think you're renting some of that land back to some farmers who are currently out in those fields, perhaps not in the rain, but at this time of year, planting those fields again. Why bother hiding behind phrases like due diligence? Why not simply tell us what Margaret Thatcher knew 50 years ago? There is no alternative. Louise D'Amato continues and she asks why the public doesn't know how much public money has been spent on this project, and then she continued by asking, when would they know? You replied, Chair Redmond, how would that change the conversation?
Stephen, you have 1 minute remaining.
I don't know that having a price tag at this juncture would make any difference. I think that's ridiculous on its face, Chair Redmond. A price tag at this juncture would make all the difference, even if it didn't account for things like drinking water. But I'll return to water perhaps in a moment, although I've got very little time left. Let's continue with your interview. There are so many things changing in our community, you said. We're growing, and we've got new investment and new markets and new supply chain. I got very, very confused at this. New investment? In the same interview, you said we lost $10 billion in investment over the past 5 years because we lacked a large industrial site. Well, first of all, we don't lack a large industrial site. We have the East Side lands. In fact, they're closer to the Grand River, the existing highways like the 401, the Breslau Airport, the existing railways. we've got new investment and yet we've lost 10 billion? What new markets are you referring to? What new supply chains? You continue. I know the European Union is looking at new trading partnerships
Stephen,
with us,
would you
she
like to
said.
sum up? You're out of time.
Let's sum up by quoting Mike Farwell, someone whom I've disagreed with publicly on this, and yet he continues in the record today. That's not the way a transparent organization operates. Any questions?
I don't see any questions, Stephen. Thank you. So, colleagues, this is the end of this evening's delegations. The next agenda item is minutes of previous meetings. I would now entertain a motion to approve the minutes of previous meetings listed 6.1 to 6.11. Moved by Councillor Hunick, seconded by Councillor Harris. Please use your e-scribe to vote. Thank you, colleagues. That is carried. Under communications, there's items 7.1 and 7.2 that are received for information for your reference. The council package as of May 14th was distributed to you electronically. I see no questions. The next agenda item is a motion to go into the committee of the whole. I would entertain a moved by Councillor Nowak, seconded by Councillor Verbanovich. Please use your e-scribe to vote that the council go into committee of the whole. Councillor Liggett, are you in favor? Thank you. Colleagues, that carries. The first report under consideration is finance, and it is regarding the 2026 plan and budget process and the principles, and then we'll vote on the remaining finance items. The plan for 2026 and the budget process and principles, I want to clarify that the report for the 2026 budget plan process was referred from May 6, 2025 committee meeting. There was a motion associated with this report, moved by Councillor Hunick and seconded by myself, that added a third clause directing staff to provide budget issue papers for any budget increases that include additional FTEs. To align with this referral, that is the motion that will be considered along with the report tonight. Are there any questions of clarification before we proceed? Councillor Foxton? No, Councillor Salonen.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. Two things. One, on what you were just mentioning about the third item of directing staff to present the budget issue paper. I was just curious on the wording, and this could have been my misunderstanding from committee. I thought it was to have a business case for each FTE, so I was hoping to seek clarity on that part.
I would agree with your recollection. So if it's clear, we'll say business case instead of issue paper, because that is exactly the words that were used.
Okay, thank you. And then the other one, if I don't know if you want me to move it now, but I did have a question for close pertaining to an identifiable individual in relation to this report. So if we could move a motion to go into closed. I don't know if you have other colleagues, though I can't see everyone around the horseshoe. If anybody has other questions broken.
I'm going to go through all the other questions, and then I'll see how colleagues feel about going into close, because there wasn't one scheduled, Councillor Salonen. So I'll hold that in abeyance. Councillor Shantz.
I'm not sure if I'm in the right report, but does this, where we are, include the schedule? Okay.
Yes, it does.
I just want to note that November 18th is one of our council meeting nights. And that's listed as a public meeting, so if that would be the Woolwich public meeting, that would be a problem. I'm not sure which one it is.
Can we make a note of it and we'll make an adjustment? Thank you. Councillor Foxton.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank you for the changes in the schedule, but I agree with Councillor Shantz, so you're already aware.
Thank you. Councillor Hunick.
Thank you, Chair Edmund. In regard to the budget, the business case, I'm glad those have been added in again. That would be very helpful. I'm just wondering about the finishing time for budget days and budget discussion days. I know that my best time to make decisions probably ends around 9 p.m. So I wonder if we should add a hard stop in there at a certain time of day. I thought that Councillor Craig was also in agreement with this, but I could be wrong.
Councillor Foxton.
Thank you. I would say we will look at a stop, but if we're close to finishing an item, I'd rather go the extra to finish an item. So I don't want to make it a hard and fast rule, because to come back again and start all over is actually taking us longer. So I think it should be a suggested stop of 9 p.m. unless we believe the article under discussion will only take slightly longer.
That would be okay with me.
Okay, thank you. Councillor James.
Thank you, through you, Chair. I just have a question regarding the revised, and I don't know, maybe this was discussed at committee, but I notice we have October 22nd for the plan to setting the stage, and then November 18th. And I just want clarification as to why there's such a, there's a difference between the November 5th to November 18th.
Mr. Steffler?
Yeah, through the chair. So that was part of when we brought the report to committee. There was some conflicts for I think a few people on that week of November 5th and 6th. So we worked through and tried to find alternate times, and this is the agenda that we proposed based on that.
Okay, and then I guess just in terms of who was consulted, I'm now conscious of the council meeting that Councillor Shantz has, just if this went through townships or area municipalities to confirm that date in advance.
Yeah, through the chair, I think we tried our best to find, working through to find which dates could work well. So if there is this conflict here, we can continue to work on that and try to find if there's another suitable date for that November 18th day.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm going to go to Councillor Brbanovich, who is the next person on the list, and Councillor Salin and I haven't forgotten about you, but we could give Commissioner Steffler a chance to introduce the actual budget paper, if that's okay, the report. Did you want to go into close before you hear about the report?
Oh, well, I mean, the report hasn't really changed since closed other than the schedule, so I'm surprised it's getting introduced, but that's fine. So long as I can put forward my motion to go into closed at some point, that's fine with me.
Councillor Brbanovich.
Thanks very much, and thanks for some of the changes that are proposed here. I think they work. I guess my question is, and I know I had one of the concerns, which is recognizing that there are a number of members of council around the Horseshoe who have other day jobs, and so taking 2 full days is probably problematic for them. And then for those of us who also represent area municipalities, if you have sort of, our Monday council day and then Tuesday, Wednesday, it just makes it really challenging. And I'm wondering, why the week of, like, I know Remembrance Day is a holiday. Is there a reason why we didn't look at using one of those dates that week? Which might solve the problem of the 18th that Councillor Shantz has identified.
Commissioner
Yeah,
Steffler?
through the chair. Yeah, there was a few conflicts with that week. We were trying to work through and find dates that would work that week. So we landed on that. And really the idea of the two sessions is built on the experience of the previous process where we want to work on having two real focused content sessions so we can deliver all the content and then have that time after to reflect and get ready for a follow-up session where we can respond to questions from those content sessions.
So the only, I do think we need to address Councillor Shantz's concern. I guess the only other thing that I would raise is maybe one of the things we can think about for next year is actually including these dates at the same time as the annual calendar is planned, because we kind of tend to build everything out from that. And so when we're adding them at this stage, like a number of us, myself included, had commitments already that we couldn't get out of as a result. So maybe that's just something to note for next year.
So it was noted. I'm going to ask Tim Brubaker to respond.
Yeah, thank you. Through the chair. So we have noted that, but the annual schedule is planned to come forward in June. It won't have budget dates for June or for 2026 on it because council will not be considering a budget in 2026 because of the election. It won't be until after the election that there will be budget dates. But it is going to be part of our work for the future to include the budget dates in that annual calendar.
But presumably the new council will still start their work in 2026, so after November 15th. So could the initial budget dates not be included in the 2026 calendar? You don't need to answer that today, but maybe staff can take that under advisement, and if it means that the 2026 schedule doesn't come till August, then maybe that's what needs to happen.
It has been duly noted, so thank you for that suggestion. Councillor Harris.
Yeah, thanks. I just want to chime in because I know that we have, spent some considerable time with this. I know Councillor Verbanovich, you had posed, some issues with that first week of November, and rightfully stated that there was a back-to-back already because the 4th is a council meeting. So in essence, whether it's a council meeting or two back-to-back budget days on the 18th and 19th, we felt that hopefully that would work. I will say the other change that I think was great on committee clerk staff was that we moved final budget day to Tuesday, December 16th. And so unlike previous years where we tried to, jam a council meeting in on the same evening, we're going to do a standalone special council meeting following the full day of budget deliberations on the 16th of December, which I think will provide us a bit more runway. So, hopefully this schedule will work. I know that Tim mentioned about the election, so next year we'll be, we'll be dealing with budget technically in the January of 27, typically, right? So as much as we want to provide certainty and clarity, this is what we came up with. So I know if there's further tweaks and changes, I'm sure we can have a look, but hopefully this will suffice. So just wanted to throw my 2 cents in there.
Thank you very much, Councillor Harris. Wayne, do you want to add anything to this report before we discuss whether or not we're going to go into closed?
Through the chair, just a reminder on some of the principles. So just highlighting that we're going to continue with some of the budget and plan principles that were introduced out last year that we felt was effective. That we're working on a capital budget approach that emphasizes affordability and long-term sustainability, and then also incorporating the direction that we received on a budget cap. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. So colleagues, we now have a request to go into close. Councillor Salonen, do you want to introduce this motion?
I can't really speak to what I want to speak about, as it is a closed matter pertaining to questions before I want to vote on this entire set of motions. So if there is a seconder. I believe Councillor James was open to seconding, but
Okay, Councillor James is seconding it. So the motion before us is that a closed meeting of council be held on Wednesday, May 21st, 2025, immediately following the motion in the Waterloo County Room in accordance with Section 239 of the Municipal Act 2001 for the purposes of considering the following subject matters. And it is questions related to the budget timeline pertaining to an identifiable individual. So colleagues, you can now cast your ballot on e-scribe. That carries, colleagues. Oh, Councillor Harris, sorry. So that carries.
I'm a yes. It didn't pop up. Sorry, I'm a yes.
Now we all know it's yes. So colleagues, we will now retire to the Waterloo County Room. So colleagues, I would now entertain a motion to reconvene council in open session. Moved by Councillor Foxton, seconded by Councillor Craig. Please use your icons in eScribe to vote. And you're voting on reconvening in open session. Colleagues, that is carried. I would now entertain a mover and a seconder to recommend the motions. This is on approving the 2026 Plan and Budget Review timetable as set out in Appendix A, and forward a copy of the report to the Waterloo Regional Police Services Board and to area municipalities in the region of Waterloo. Councillor Foxton, are you moving it, or do you have
Yeah, I'll move it, and then I have a question as well, though.
Okay, and seconded by Councillor Liggett. And there's part C to A, B, and C. Councillor Foxton.
Just if you can get the council invites out as quickly as possible so I can cancel everything that I had in those subjects. Thank you.
Sending out calendar invitations. Okay, I see no further speakers. Please use your icon to vote. Yes, Councillor Liggett seconded it. Colleagues, that is carried. We'll now consider items 9.1.2 through 9.1.4 as a whole, unless there are any requests to speak to any of these individually. Any of these items? Moved by Councillor Rod. You have a question? Which one would you like to speak to?
9.1.3.
9.1.3? 3? So I see no other requests for pulling out. I do have a list of speakers, though. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Nowak, seconded by Councillor Wolf. Before we take the vote, 9.1.3, Councillor Rodriguez, you want that taken separately? Do you want to speak to it?
Yeah, just a question for staff who may not. Yeah, so I guess there's a Appendix A, end of Appendix A. There's a line at the end that we're due to supply chain issues not building bridges over Ellis Creek, and so I just kind of wanted to call that out because I think we talk. This is a really great project for Cambridge, for a lot of residential and industrial growth at that end of the city. And my understanding that it's about 2 or 3 years out now from when we're building this road to when those bridges might be in place. And so, the report says we're doing a lot to increase, safe ways to get around or other ways to get around. Totally understand and appreciate the constraints of supply chain and the current world economy. But yeah, I guess I just wanted to comment on that, or if staff have any thoughts, and we might have to take this offline, just in terms of what could be an interim condition that isn't just nothing. Because we wouldn't bring forward a tender if the bridge for the road wasn't available. So I just wanted to comment on that as we, talk about really making a shift in how people get around, that we can't be deferring things 3 years out when we're rebuilding a road and setting it. So there perhaps isn't a question on that, but if staff want to comment on it, that would, open to that. Thanks.
Doug, I see you writing furiously.
Yeah. Through you, Chair. So, Council, I'll have to take this one away. My delivery partner isn't here. So, understand the question. Happy to follow up. We'll do so with all of Council by email. Thank you.
So that was just a question. You don't necessarily want it taken separately? So I see no other speakers. It's been moved and seconded, so I would ask you to use your e-scribe to vote. on items 9.1.2 through to 9.1.4, and that does include 9.1.3 as well. Councilor Bravanovich? Thank you. That carries. Colleague, the next committee report is the Library Committee Summary of May 1st, 2025. There are no recommendations, so we're receiving this for information. So we're on to Licensing and Hearings Committee Summary of May 1st, 2025. If I could have a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor McCabe, seconded by Councillor Bravanovich. Oh, do you want to second it, or do you? Okay, and you have a question? Go ahead.
Yeah, and sorry, I might be missing something, but when I read the three bullets, bullets 2 and 3 say the same thing. Increase the accessible taxi fleet from 7 to 9% by adding 5 additional accessible fans in 2026. And so, is that an error, or is it supposed to say the same thing?
We will just look into this right now. Okay, the correct version is now up.
Can you read the correct version, please?
The third bullet was an error. It actually should read, defer the implementation of the centralized wheelchair accessible vehicle dispatch system pilot project is outlined in the report dated May 1st, 2025.
Yeah.
Councillor Hunick.
No, I just needed it read. We're good. Thank you.
That's what I thought it was seconding, so that's great. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Rodriguez.
Yeah, perhaps just a comment on the administration and finance, if that's appropriate. Oh, we're not there.
We're just going to vote on this one, and then we'll get to your question. So it's been moved and seconded. So please use your icons to vote, and this is a report coming out of Licensing and Hearings Committee. Colleagues, that is carried. The next agenda item is Community and Health Services Committee Summary, May 6, 2025. There is a recommendation. If I could have a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Rodriguez, seconded by Councillor Schatz. I see no speakers. Please use your icons to vote. Colleagues, that is carried. The next report is the Finance Administration and Finance Committee Summary, May 6, 2025. We are looking for a mover and a seconder, but I do believe, Councillor Harris, you wanted to make an amendment to your motion.
Yeah, it's just a slight little wording change. So, Chair, I'm not sure if I need an amendment or if I can simply read the motion with the wording change and have have the seconder, which I believe was Natasha, seconded, and then we go for discussion and debate it. I'm not sure if that's. I did talk to clerk staff previously, so that was what they perhaps advised me of. But I'm in your hands.
So I would suggest that you read it with the amendment, and if the seconder is agreement, or you can get a seconder to the amendment, we will then vote on the motion as amended. So do you want to go ahead and provide your amendment?
Yeah, sure. So, just the therefore be it resolved that Regional Council directs staff to prepare and present a draft 2026 budget for all regional services that limits the increase in the portion of the tax levy which is attributed to all regional services to no more than 5% while maintaining vital services and seeking efficiencies wherever possible. Adding just a little bit of clarity.
Do we have a seconder for that amendment?
I'm willing to second.
Thank you. So it's been moved and seconded. So we're now talking about the main motion. Councillor Bravanovich?
Yeah, thanks, because I didn't have an opportunity to speak to it at committee. I'll just speak to it briefly. I want to thank Councillor Harris and Selin for bringing this forward. I think this is going to be very helpful early in the budget process to give staff an indication of where we're thinking. We'd like to see things be at. I'm also happy that we made the clarification on that. So thanks for that as well, because I actually think the wording that you're proposing now, Councillor Harris, actually makes it a little clearer, because I think there was some confusion last year after we were done in budget about what actually was included and what wasn't included, and this provides that clarity. I think the only other thing that I would add is, I think some of us certainly would still hope that we can get a budget in, especially after the last couple of years, that's closer to the rate of inflation. But compared to where we've been, this is certainly an important step. And then if there's any further dialogue, that's something that'll happen at budget time. But I will be supporting this today.
Thank you. Councillor McCabe.
Thank you. My question was going to be whether the police budget was included in that. And so Councillor Harris's amendment addresses that. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Wolf.
Through you, Madam Chair. I voted against this in the last time, and the reason I voted against it was with where it says that limits the overall tax levy increase to no more than 5%. And then when Councillor Craig spoke, he talked about that this was a hard stop, not a negotiated stop. And so I don't mind us aiming for 5%, but I don't want us to be tied to no more than 5%. In our last budget, we found that there were things that we needed to include. And with the state of community, homelessness, et cetera, and until we get a provincial government that's going to step up to help us meet those needs, we may find ourselves in that position again. And so I don't want to say that we can't go above 5% if that's what this motion is saying. And so I maybe want clarification on that. And also a little clarification on the amendment or the rewording. So you reworded it, and what did that change?
So I'm going to reflect back to you my understanding, and I'll look to Mr. Steffler to agree, but we are asking staff to bring forward a budget that's not more than 5%. If council loves that budget, that's the budget. If council feels that there are cuts that they can't live with, or there are service reductions that we can't live with, then it would be in the hands of council to decide what that actual increase would be. And I guess, Wayne, would you agree that that's how I would interpret this motion?
Yeah, that's correct. The direction is for us to present that, to represent a budget under 5%. And then from there, council has discretion on where they want to go from there.
Okay, as part of that, will they be showing us where they cut so that we know? In the last budget, they did, right? They said, okay, we're cutting this, 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 this. And then we went and said, okay, let's put back this, 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 this. And we ended up with 9%. But
again, I'll ask Wayne to respond.
Yes, so as per the motion, we are going to go through a process where we're going develop a robust prioritization process to identify, where we can maintain vital services, where we're going to find efficiencies, and then from that, we'll demonstrate how we feel we can achieve being under 5%, and then that will be for council to review and approve.
Okay, thank you.
And Councillor Wolf, I believe that the amendment is to clarify that the 5% does not include the police budget, but I would look to Councillor Harris. Are there any other changes that you've made in the amendment that you introduced and we passed today?
No, not at all, actually. I just basically added that limits the increase in the portion of the tax levy, which is attributed to all regional services. So, and I know Councillor Hunick stated or talked about the budget papers, or actually, forgive me, Councillor Hunick, it wasn't the budget. We call them the white papers, but business case.
Business case.
Should there be those brought forward that would increase, us over the 5, then those should be evaluated at that time, right? I don't think that this, handcuffs council in any which way, but it does allow staff to go to work over the course of the summer and bring us something, within those percentage points.
Councillor Wolf?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hunick?
Thank you, Chair Redmond. Thank you, Councillor Harris. I was prepared to support the original motion, and I plan to support this one as well. I was just wondering about clarity on what change in wording there was, because I couldn't find it, but you just said, so we're good. Thanks.
Councillor Rodriguez?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And this is my question on the whole admin finance. So I just want to thank Councillor Harris for bringing forward that change to note that. And I think, as the community tunes in to hear these numbers get put out as, budget guidelines, that there are other pieces of the budget that are outside of this 5%, including the police budget. And so there was in the budget timelines that we just approved a few moments ago, some direction to forward a copy to the Police Services Board and the area municipalities. And I don't think I'm going to bring any motion forward, but just perhaps a comment or note to those on regional council who sit on the Police Services Board that perhaps there's a way that this could get shared, that this is something we've provided our staff to sharpen their pencils. We're a growing community, we know that, and we'll see what comes back at that 5%. And I think it should be incumbent on all of our service providers, including those that are a bit more arm's length, to consider this direction that we've provided to staff. Whether they take it or not, that's up to the board. But I just wanted to put that out there that, at the end of the day, for the community, when they hear 5%, there's more to it than just that. So thank you.
Councillor Rodriguez, I believe the chief is coming sometime in June to council, so you'll have an opportunity. It's not about budget per se, it's an update in their annual report, but it gives you an opportunity to speak directly to the chief.
Perfect, thank you.
I see no other speakers. It's been amended, moved and seconded. Councillor Leggett?
Yeah, I just want a confirmation. So the only other change in this for the amendment was just basically a housekeeping of taking the second direct out and putting all in there, right? Like that amendment, it seems there was the police thing and then the housekeeping of taking the second word of direct out because it looks like it was not supposed to be there. It should have said all. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Vanovich? Oh, you popped up again. Okay, so we're ready to take the vote then. Please use your icons to vote yes or no. Colleagues, that is carried. The next agenda item is the Audit Committee Summary, May 13th, 2025. I get a mover and a seconder. And there is one recommendation, and it's about the financial statements, sinking fund financial statements and trust fund financial statements. Moved by Councillor James, seconded by Councillor Erb. Please use your icons to vote. Colleagues, that is carried. The next item is Sustainability, Infrastructure and Development Committee, May 6, 2025. It is a summary from that meeting. If I could have a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Rodriguez, seconded by Councillor Shantz. Please use your icons to, Councillor Vrvanovich.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. If I can ask for item 5 in relation to the speed cameras. I believe that's item 5. Yes, be voted on separately. And if I can, I just want to ask a question first and then a comment. We've been reading in the papers in the last week that the province is perhaps reviewing what powers they may allow municipalities to have in this space, because they are experiencing some of the concerns that some of us predicted would come to fruition. And so I just want to understand what our contract is with our provider. You know, are we committed to X number of cameras over X period of time? Or if the province changes the legislation and we don't have the ability to put those cameras in place and so on, will that change? Like, will we have an ability to get out of our contract? So I'm just wondering if we can speak to that, and then I'll make my comments.
Again, I see Doug writing furiously, so we'll go to Mr. Spooner.
Through you, Chair, yeah, and thank you, Council, for the question. So we've been monitoring the province's anticipated upcoming direction on this one, and it really calls for two main elements, of which I'm confident we have in place today. One is about clear notification to the public, so we've got signage in every location. As you know, we also publish online, and that gets picked up into trip planners and directional software. And then the second one is real safety outcomes, which we can obviously demonstrate through the pilot, the 63% reduction in speeding. So I'm confident from the province's upcoming potential ask that we are there. However, if there was a change to our ability to operate the program, our contract with Genoptic is a daily lease rate for cameras. So we would have a likely conversation with them about a cancellation. They're anticipating us having 175 cameras throughout the region, but it's a daily lease rate. So I will have to get back more on the exit clause, but I know that daily lease we can get out of. So thank you.
Okay, well, in terms of the exit clause, if that's information that can be sent to council by email afterwards, that would be appreciated. And if it's confidential in nature, just mark it as such. But just in terms of the issue, as I said, if we can vote on that one separately, I won't be supporting it today as I didn't the last time it came to council. I have some significant concerns, as does my area municipal council. As you know, Kitchener has, for the time being, voted to not participate in the program beyond the initial cameras that were there previously. I'm concerned about the fact that this is being seen by many residents, and I've heard from them as an increasing cash grab. There's, you know, it's particularly with the fact that this is 24/7, 365. You know, even in the middle of the night. Is certainly a concern for people, and I think it does take away for people's perception of fairness. You know, particularly when it appears based on social media reports that the threshold is a fairly low threshold before these offenses kick in. So as a result, I won't be able to support this today.
Councillor Leggett.
My question has to do with Councillor Verbanovich's last comment, hearing that people are being charged when they're at 1 over or 2 over the speed limit, and I have concerns about that. Sorry, no, you were talking about the threshold.
Yes, it was the low threshold.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I was talking about, I misunderstood you. I'm talking about people who would get tickets at 1 over the speed limit or 2 over the speed limit. That's problematic if they're going 30. So I think we should be considering that. And if we have a say on, is there a threshold?
Doug's going to provide some clarity.
Yeah, through you, Chair. Thank you for the question. There is absolutely a threshold. I would say if somebody was able to show us a ticket of going 1 or 2 over, I'd be absolutely interested in reviewing that. There should be none of those out there in circulation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that confirmation.
Councillor Craig.
No, it's my understanding there that it's not exactly 40 kilometers per hour, that there is some expansion in that, and you have to be, it's fairly flexible to some degree. I think the other thing too is you hear across the city over and over again about speeding in the community. And so you can't solve it just with police or with, various other things that we have tried. I mean, if you don't want to get a ticket, then stay within the speed limit. It's that simple. People don't want to be restricted. And it's not just the speeding, it's the behavior of driving today, which has deteriorated considerably. And I think we have to try to, in some manner, bring this in and to consolidate the behavior that we see with some drivers and not all drivers. So I'm in favor of them in the school zones. There's always going to be concerns about it always being labeled as a cash grab, but it really is about safety in the community, and that's where I fall with this.
Thank you. Councillor Hunick.
Sorry, Chair, I wasn't expecting you to call on me so soon. I'm concerned about this too. My concern is a little different. I've heard from about equal members of the public who are very thankful for the speed cameras and the safety they will offer, and members of the public who assume that it's a cash grab. So I just want to remind everyone in the public that the money we receive from the speed cameras can only go to road safety programs, and also that the fighting for the right to speed or the right to continue above the speed limit without repercussions makes me very sad. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hunick. Councillor Wolf.
Through you, Madam Chair, I too will be voting against this, as I have all along. I think we need to be encouraging compliance, not defiance. And what we're seeing in many cases right now, especially in the areas where it's 30 kilometers an hour in front of schools, we're seeing dangerous driving where people are tailgating, passing around, not being safe, especially in times that aren't school hours. So again, I've heard from many people, as we all have, because we've been getting the emails. And I think people feel that they're being unjustly penalized or they're not driving unsafely at times, especially when the schools are not in operation. So I think we've just gone sort of overboard on the number of cameras and the speeds. And I'll be voting against it.
Councillor Shantz.
Thank you. Just for clarity on the piece that are rural school zones, I don't have a problem labeling a school zone. I think that's very appropriate, but I want to ensure that we're not going to be making any changes to the speed limits or anything else until we work through a rural strategy. So I just want confirmation on that.
Doug, over to you.
Through you, Chair, yes. We're currently working on 3 policy items to come back to Council. One of them being I'm going to call it the rural speed zone strategy. I don't remember what we called it at the time, but it is to address some of the speed limits and what we had called the double step down, 80, 60, 40, and back up. There are 2 other elements under development. One is an MOU for ourselves and our area municipal partners. And the third is based on the encouragement from area municipal partners to look at the road safety reserve and how that reserve can be applied to regional roads as well as area municipal roads. So basically being applied to the greatest area of safety need. And as Councillor Hunick rightly noted, any monies in this program made above operating costs go into the road safety reserve to help us on other road safety initiatives. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. I'm going to go to Councillor Fox, and then I'm going to call the question. Sorry, Sandy.
Sorry, can I just follow up on that? Also, with the rural strategy, we were going to consider time of day, I think, with flashing lights, and there was one other thing that I've forgotten. Joe, do you remember? Doug?
Just through you, Chair, I can acknowledge the time of day was in the motion, and you're right, there was a third piece, and I'm not recalling what that was, but we've got the motion. That's what the team's working through. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Foxton.
Thank you, Chair, and through you. Again, I can't support the 24 hours, and I'll tell you why. I don't have a problem with somebody doing 50 and a 40 at 4 o'clock in the morning or 3 o'clock in the morning. But I respect everybody's opinions, and we will all vote accordingly. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to call the question, omitting number 5, which is the speed camera that we've all been talking about. So it's 1 through 11. It's been moved and seconded. Please use your icons to vote on the rest of the recommendations, and then we will circle back to the speed cameras. Colleagues, that carries. We will now go to number 5, which we'll give clerks a minute to put it up. It is number 5 about the speed cameras. And colleagues, I will be supporting this, and I would tell you that I think this is about changing behavior, and this is also about investment in road safety, as Councillor Hunick had pointed out and Doug has reiterated. And I think for those reasons, I can support this, and I will be interested to see our contractual obligations that you will bring back, Doug. So please, this has been moved and seconded. Please use your icons to vote. Councillor James? That carries, colleagues. Thank you. The next agenda item is Board of Health. And I now call on Dr. Wong, Commissioner of Public Health and Paramedic Services, Medical Officer of Health, to provide a verbal update. Dr. Wong is on camera because she's sick. So thank you for protecting the rest of us, and I hope you get well soon. Over to you, Dr. Wong.
Thank you, Chairman, and good evening, members of Council. Thank you for the opportunity to present a Board of Health update with information about measles, the latest drug alert, and vector-borne diseases. First, with respect to measles, we continue to see an increase in measles activity locally and provincially. Measles is now circulating in our community. As of end of day yesterday, we had 78 confirmed cases and 22 probable cases. Local and provincial cases continue to primarily be in those who are unvaccinated or under-immunized. As of May 13th, 1,622 cases of measles have been reported across 18 local public health agencies, with 182 new cases reported in the week preceding that. Last week, 2 local high schools closed due to measles exposures. Public Health worked closely with the school boards to support their staff and students to return to school, and both reopened Tuesday after the long weekend. Measles symptoms, as a reminder, begin 7 to 21 days after infection and may include high fever, cough, runny nose, red watery eyes, and a red rash lasting 4 to 7 days. Measles can cause serious illness and death. Infants under 1 year of age, unimmunized pregnant individuals, and people with weakened immune systems are at increased risk of complications. For those who are fully immunized, the risk of infection and hospitalization is very low. Earlier this month, Ontario's Ministry of Health expanded eligibility for measles vaccine for all of Western Ontario, including Waterloo region. This expanded eligibility covers babies and children from 6 months to 5 years of age who can now receive measles vaccines earlier. In addition, adults born on or after 1970 can now receive a second dose of vaccine if they do not already have one. To get the vaccine, residents are encouraged to reach out to their primary care provider or access walk-in clinics. Public Health will also be hosting some clinics for priority groups without access to a primary care provider. These clinics will begin June the 2nd, and appointments for those clinics will be posted on our website shortly. There are steps residents can take to protect themselves and their families. 1, ensure you are up to date with measles vaccinations. 2, monitor yourself and your family for signs and symptoms of measles, especially after returning from international travel or areas experiencing measles outbreaks. And finally, if you develop symptoms, limit contact with other people. In particular, do not attend school, childcare, or healthcare settings. Call your healthcare provider or walk-in clinic and notify them about your symptoms before the appointment so they can take precautions before you come. Wear a medical mask when seeking care. Next, an update about the latest drug alert. A community drug alert is issued by the OMARS Collaborative. OMARS is short for Overdose Monitoring, Alert, and Response System, and is a collaborative of community agencies, public health, paramedic services, and police. An alert is issued when partners have observed an increased number of overdoses within a short period of time. This may signal an elevated risk for people who use drugs. While it is not usually possible to pinpoint the exact reasons behind an increase, we do know that changes in the toxicity of the drug supply can lead to an increased risk for users. In an illegal drug supply, these changes can occur at any time. In terms of overdose trends that we are monitoring, between April 1st and May 20th of this year, paramedic services responded to fewer overdose drug poisoning calls compared to the same time period in 2024 and 2023, and so far the number of suspected drug-related deaths reported in 2025 is similar to 2024. And finally, an update about vector-borne diseases. As the weather gets warmer, we expect to see the annual seasonal increase in vector-borne diseases. Vector-borne diseases like West Nile virus and Lyme disease are carried by vectors such as mosquitoes and ticks, and can be acquired by humans from mosquito and tick bites. Public Health conducts vector-borne disease surveillance, vector source reduction, and provides public education to reduce the risk of vector-borne illness in Waterloo region. And finally, last week, municipalities were notified of mosquito larviciding activities across the region, which will begin in June. And that's it for my update, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Wong. Councillor Hunick.
Thank you, Chair Redmond, and thank you, Dr. Wong, for presenting. Even though you're sick, we hope you get better very soon. I'm just wondering, where can the public and or members of council go if they want to check the list of exposure sites in Waterloo region for the measles?
Oh, thank you, Councillor Hunick. So we keep that list constantly updated in real time on our website. So if you go to regionofwaterloo.ca/measles, you will arrive at a landing page about measles, and there you can find the link to all the exposure sites in Waterloo region, public exposure sites.
Great, thank you. And this might sound a bit funny, but I am serious. I give my dog flea and tick medication to prevent tick bites. Is there something at all similar for human beings?
Really, in terms of protection, it is to try to prevent the bites in the first place from the mosquitoes or the ticks. So it often has to do with preventative actions like the type of clothing you wear, checking your body after you go out into the woods, and putting on insect repellent. And for West Nile, trying to get rid of standing water sites on your property. So it's really actions that are geared towards trying to prevent the mosquito or tick bites, or if you do find, for example, a tick on your body, is to remove it. If you see it on your body.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor McCabe.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Thanks, Dr. Wong. I'm just wondering, because, we're hearing about the various populations where the measles seem to be particularly spreading. And some people aren't vaccinated because they're trying to catch up post-COVID. Some of them maybe don't have a primary care provider to more easily access vaccinations, et cetera. So has your team adjusted some of your strategies to get into some of these populations to try and encourage more people to get this really important and life-saving vaccine? Or, I'm just wondering if you could share a little bit about how you're reaching maybe some of those harder to reach populations. Thanks.
For sure. Thank you for the question, Councillor McCabe. So, yes, in Southern Ontario or Western Ontario, there are communities that generally, don't believe in vaccination and have not been taking up vaccination. And, the province has found that, measles is spreading in particular in these populations. And the efforts have been made in all local areas experiencing increases in cases, including ours, with members of these communities and their leadership to try to encourage increased vaccination. Otherwise, there are also, like you mentioned, some people who may not be up to date with their vaccines. What we've noticed in the current situation in Western Ontario is really that most of the cases are in children. And so that is why, even though we had an increase in measles, that we were responding to, public health also continued its efforts with respect to the enforcement of the Immunization of School Pupils Act and the clinics that were offered to try to catch up students on their vaccinations. Because again, the core method of slowing down measles spread is to have a highly immunized population, because if it's in a population where there's not a lot of immunization, it will spread extremely quickly. but when it encounters a population with high rates of immunization, the virus spread will start to significantly slow down. So, while there are obviously measures that public health will do in the immediate term, as we're doing now, to try to control case and contacts, the most important longer term strategy is to increase the immunization of children and students in our area. So that's why that continues to be the core measure that we need to focus on. And what we have seen in our region is that generally, overall, when we do the enforcement of the the enforcement of the Immunization of School Pupils Act, we raise the immunization rates back to where they should be overall for schools in our region. So we do maintain a relatively good immunization rate in the general population, but there continues to be spread in a much greater spread and much greater number of cases and contacts in communities that don't uptake immunization.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Foxton.
Thank you, Shirley, for all you do. I hope you get better. Go to bed.
Thank you. Hopefully soon.
Thank you very much, Dr. Wong. We don't usually comment on who's in the gallery, but I have to say we have a cohort of incredibly intent, alert people that are behaving beautifully. There were many people who left and didn't stick with us, but I understand that you're a planning class from the University of Waterloo, so thank you for being here and being attentive to all of these very important issues that we get to deal with on a daily basis. Councillor Foxton's worried that you're going to give us a quiz at the end of it. The next agenda item is from the regional clerk, and this is a code of conduct update. And it's a report, and I will ask Will Short, Director of Council and Administrative Services and Regional Clerk, to introduce the report and the presentation. So over to you, Will.
Thank you, Regional Chair and members of Council. Before you is a clerk's report speaking to the needed update to the Code of Conduct for members of Council and local boards. The presentation that Chris and Tim will provide you will highlight the notable changes that can be expected if Council were to approve this new code, but we want to emphasize that the content of the proposed code not only aligns with requirements set out in the Municipal Act and regulations, but it is also very similar to the current code. So thanks, Chris and Tim. Take it away.
This is why we don't use this. No? There we go.
I was going to say, for sure you know how to work the machine, right?
You'd think we would, wouldn't we? Right, yeah. So thanks, Will. Thanks, Council. Before we get into the actual changes that were proposed, I'm going to provide a little bit of background. So back in 2018, the current Code of Conduct and Council Staff Relations Policy were approved by Council in response to an amendment to the Municipal Act that required municipalities to have both documents and appoint an integrity commissioner. Throughout this term, we've had John Mascaron, Council's integrity commissioner, come in. He presented during the orientation and just this past October about both documents as well as the case law that's arisen since 2018 with respect to them. So the code also directs staff to review the Code of Conduct every term of Council. So back in 2023, we started this work, and unbeknownst to us, the province was also working on some legislation. So we worked with John Mascaron. We consulted municipal best practices to develop a revised Code of Conduct and the policy. And we asked Mr. Mascaron to come in October to provide an update to Council, at which point we were ready to come with our revised code. And then about 6 weeks later, the province introduced the Municipal Accountability Act. So we held off at that point on doing any more work to see what would happen with the legislation and with the provincial election. Just a week ago, 2 weeks ago, the province has reintroduced the Act. So I'll give you a quick update of what's in that. The most significant thing for us with respect to the code is that should the Act be approved, it will give the province the authority to pass regulations that will create a standardized code of conduct for all municipalities in the province. So it will also create an advisory role for the Provincial Integrity Commissioner to give training to all municipal integrity commissioners and councillors on the code of conduct. And then the other big piece of it is that it will provide a mechanism whereby councillors can be removed from council should there be a significant violation of the code. Then there would be an investigation from the Municipal Integrity Commissioner, a recommendation from the Provincial Integrity Commissioner, and then a unanimous vote from the rest of council to remove somebody. So it's a pretty high bar, but that will be what happens should this Act pass. So we talked with Mr. Mascarin about what we thought we should do with this. And the province has, because it would make our code of conduct obsolete. So we said, is this something we want to bring forward? And in essence, we're still recommending that council goes forward with the new code because the province has said that if the Act passes, the standardized code won't be in place until after the next municipal election. So we still have 18 months where the option is an out-of-date code or the new revised code, which Chris is going to walk you through the significant changes. The other big reason that we're recommending going forward with it is the Municipal Accountability Act doesn't touch the requirement for municipalities to have a council staff relations policy. And our current council staff relations policy highly references the code of conduct. So the new one doesn't. It's a better, more standalone document. So if council doesn't wish to go forward with the recommendation tonight, that's fine. We will probably be back after the Municipal Accountability Act passes with the new council staff relations policy because we would need to revise that anyway. So with that context, Chris has done all the heavy lifting and will answer all the tough questions about all of the proposed changes to the document. He can probably work the buttons better too.
Thank you, Tim. Regional Chair, members of council. For now, I'll be going over what the major changes that we noticed are for the code of conduct that'll apply to you guys. First and foremost, the applicability to advisory committees. So as it stands right now, there's separate documents for each. What we're proposing is universally applicable to both. The gift section has been updated to reflect best practices, and the introduction of a new clause known as non-pecuniary interest, which is essentially the ability to declare conflict on items that are not strictly financial. There are also a number of administrative changes that we're proposing, change to gender-neutral language. That should be fairly self-evident. We removed the different treatment for tickets to events, as that's now neatly encapsulated by the general provisions of the gift section. And then the council staff relations policy, which expands on the roles of council and staff that are already existing and working with the direction from the CAO. As it pertains to advisory committee and local boards, as I mentioned, as it stands, the current structure is a different code for each. What we're proposing is a universally applicable one for both, especially since the one that governs advisory committees is a little underdeveloped. And this would also allow for a standardized complaint process through the appropriate means of the Integrity Commissioner. There is also still the retained ability for council to apply penalties for advisory committees or local boards when the Integrity Commissioner does not, and also vice versa for advisory committees to be able to implement penalties where Integrity Commissioner does not recommend a sanction. The gift section has also been updated. The previous code, again, a lot of the content is similar, but there are some now general provisions which still maintain that prohibition against undue influence. And there is also some more permissive aspects. So some of the more notable ones are the volunteerism that we didn't want to unreasonably limit, the items that are subject to randomness, so lottery tickets, those kind of things that you might receive at events and that kind of thing. And also items that are already available for public use. So The reasoning being that if they're already publicly available, there isn't that element of undue influence. There is also now a simplified process in consultation with the Integrity Commissioner. The provision of the gift registry was deemed unnecessary, and so we decided to focus instead on gifts that you can and can't receive, and that's neatly reflected in the new provisions for gift reception. Being conscious as well of the lobbyist registry that was just adopted, we do have a little note there that just emphasizes coherence to the provisions in the lobbyist registry and that associated code of conduct, just so there's no blurred lines there. And as I already mentioned, there's a new administrative change about removing that separate treatment for tickets to events, as that's already captured by the provisions of the gift section. Non-pecuniary interests. So as you may know and recall from John's presentation, the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act primarily deals with pecuniary interests or financial conflicts. So what this provision seeks to address is situations where council might believe they have a non-financial conflict and that they wish to use this tool to make that declaration. And so there are situations you could potentially imagine, appointments or hires and that kind of thing, where it's maybe not entirely clear that it's a financial interest, but as a councillor, we've seen you maybe want to be able to declare a conflict anyway, and this will then allow you to do that. We included a deemed absent provision associated with this to address a potential loophole that comes in the Municipal Act. If you're absent for a vote being a negative vote, we figured that if you didn't want something to pass at the conflict, that should still be addressed anyways, and so that loophole doesn't exist. So that just seeks to clean that up a little more neatly. And lastly, as mentioned, we're proposing a new council staff relations policy. The current policy as it exists now is more deferential to other documents. As Tim mentioned, the one that we're proposing, it works better as a standalone document, whereas the current one references a procedural bylaw and other harassment, HR policies and that kind of thing. And this also provides a more clear path to the CAO as the means to address concerns that members of council might have with members of staff to keep that nice and clean as well. So those are the major changes that we highlighted. As Will already mentioned, we believe a lot of the content is the same and already governed by existing statutes and Ontario regulations, so not too much to change, but we hope that we've clarified potentially some of the concerns you might have, and we're here for any questions that you might have.
Thank you very much. Councillor James.
Thank you, Chris and team, through you, Chair. Just great work on this. I just have a question. I think you answered it, but just to clarify, if a councillor would have a conflict based on a non-pecuniary interest, so you mentioned like boards, is there another kind of example, tangible example that this could fall under, just so we have an idea and even from the public perspective?
Yes, thank you for the question, and through you, Chair. Yeah, appointments was one of the easy examples I kind of thought of because there's not necessarily a financial element to it. I believe John Mascarin, when he came in, he alluded to staff hires. So while there might be potentially a financial aspect to that, a lot of the times that might not be a direct benefit financially, but could still easily be perceived as a conflict or an actual conflict. Do you have any other examples?
Yeah, so I can weigh in on a couple. So just to add into that, like a situation where you had a family member who is not one of the family members that's listed in the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. So perhaps a sibling or a cousin where a councillor might believe that they have a conflict, but it's not strictly laid out in the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. Or perhaps a family friend where the region was interested in buying property that they owned, and a councillor felt that they should declare a conflict. Under the MCIA, they don't have a conflict, but this gives councillors an opportunity to still declare a conflict and be noted as such in the minutes.
Perfect. Thank you for the clarification.
Councillor Rodriguez.
Councillor James asked my question. Thank you. I'm good.
Councillor Salonen.
Thank you. Mine is in the same realm of questions, but I'm still looking for further clarity. The definition that was provided on the PowerPoint for non-pecuniary conflict of interest is actually different than what's in the definitions of the draft, or at least how I read it, but granted it was going by quickly when I was trying to compare. Is that the actual wording that is in the draft document, word for word, in the definitions?
They're just pulling it up.
Yep.
To my knowledge, it wasn't different, but would you be able to speak specifically to what was different? Could it be a copy and paste error?
Yes. So it was page 3 of 26 of the draft, so Appendix B, subsection E. It says conflict of interest means a situation in which a member has competing interests or loyalties between a member's personal or private interests and his or her public interests as elected representatives, such that it might influence his or her decision in a particular matter.
So conflict of interest, that definition would probably, so the one that I pulled from my presentation is Q, non-pecuniary interest. So that's a separate definition. Conflict of interest, what I'm actually assuming probably comes from the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act, but the definition that I'm alluding to specifically is Q in that same document. And that's a non-pecuniary interest that I defined.
Perfect. Thank you. So I'm good with that one. Back to E though. So E identified as conflict of interest. I guess I just have questions on that. Seems really broad. And I know that you guys provided examples, but if someone were to file an integrity commissioner complaint, if somebody didn't declare conflict, I'm just curious what John Mascaren's perspective is on that broad definition and scope. As I think it's important to declare conflicts, but I think that that's lots of people could be drawing lots of conclusions from that.
Absolutely, and thank you for the question. So that's E, you're still concerned about, conflict of interest definition?
Correct.
So I wouldn't want to speak on behalf of John, but what I would imagine is that this is probably something fairly standard that he uses. You can absolutely reach out to him specifically if you were concerned about that. I don't think Tim and I flagged that as an area of concern, and in general, he would be bound by the provisions of the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act and then the provisions of the non-pecuniary interest section that we are now proposing that you adopt. But of course, if you have more questions, you could definitely reach out to John Mascaren for more clarity.
Okay. And so you're looking for approval tonight, but you're saying to reach out to John separately?
Yeah, like.
Okay.
If you want to.
That's just going to change. Can we just refer this to committee and get, I would like to move a motion if we could refer it to committee or to next council and get John's input on that. Because my concern isn't about how he would go through the process. It's more so about what the threshold for being able to file complaint is. I'm speaking from, I know in our local municipality, we have a lot of complaints that go through and the threshold is pretty low. So tax dollars are spent on an investigation that is often found to be not.
So Councillor Salonen, you're asking for some clarification around this point in particular. So are you moving a motion of deferral, and to when?
I am, and to, I guess I would look to clerks on timeline for Mr. Mascaren, but our next meeting, that's sufficient.
So I would suggest that we do it at the next council meeting. It gives us a little bit more runway. So this motion to defer has been moved. Is there anyone, Chantal, or Councillor Phoenix, you're seconding it? Okay, so we are going to speak to a motion to defer this to the next council meeting, which would be a council meeting in June. Councillor Salonen, any other further comments?
No, I think I covered them. Otherwise, I'm fine with the changes.
Councillor McCabe, do you want to speak to the deferral?
Possibly, because I had a question about whether there should have been something else added to the council staff relation, that I think was.
So we can only talk about time and place, so we'll dispense with the motion to defer, and then if you want to come back and ask for further clarification, if it's carried, that can come back with the deferral.
Okay, it would just be because I'd have to actually ask what the, and let you know what my question was.
You can send it in an email if you want, and we'll add it to clarification to John Mascaren. Okay, so we're now voting on a motion to defer this to the council meeting in June. So please use your icons to vote. Or we can talk after too if you want.
I'm just hosting from over here, so are you in favor?
I'm in favor. Thank you. So colleagues, it will be deferred till June 25th council. And Councillor McCabe, what was your issue?
My question was around, it goes back to a couple of years ago when we were talking about the ability or not for council to hire their own sort of personal staff. And I'm just wondering where or if that should have been. I thought we were going to have a report back on that, and so I was curious if that should have been captured in the council staff relations piece.
Okay, we'll take that under advisement, and
Okay.
it'll come back as part of the deferral.
Right, but people remember that conversation, right? Because we had a fairly detailed conversation.
We all remember it.
Okay, okay, all right. I think it's really important to get that
Thank you.
figured
So
out.
I believe if we have concerns about whether we have a conflict or not, that it doesn't cost us to go to the Integrity Commissioner and get an opinion. Two of my councillors have done that recently, and the Integrity Commissioner was quite detailed and explained exactly where they did not have a conflict. Thank you.
So colleagues, and again, I want to acknowledge the University of Waterloo planning students and just point out that it's not every day that we have a clerk's report. And this is a bit of an auspicious occasion, and I won't make this a long goodbye, Mr. Short. But Will Short has been our clerk since June 2021, and you have made significant contributions to our corporation and to the residents of the region. And Will, we thank you. You've brought great experience and deep knowledge to managing some complex files and supporting regional council, and you will be greatly missed. And I know that you are leaving us in June. You've provided strong and thoughtful leadership on several key areas, clerk's office, the municipal speed camera program, which we've dealt with, provincial offenses court administration, bylaw enforcement, and the lobbyist registry program. You've also done a great job of recruiting and grooming a great team. So we know that as you leave, you have full confidence, as we do, in Chris and in Tim Brubaker, who will be our acting chief clerk. So it is really with mixed emotions that we say goodbye. Your last day is June 3rd. I know that you're leaving us because it's location, 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 and you're moving to a municipality that's much closer to where you and your family live. But know that you will be missed and that you leave a legacy of excellence. We could vote on it, maybe. Okay, Will doesn't want to say anything. So now we'll consider other matters under the Committee of the Whole. There are no other matters. A motion for the Committee of the Whole to rise and Council to resume. If I could have a mover, moved by Councillor McCabe, seconded by Councillor Rodriguez. So you're voting on the Committee of the Whole rise and Council to resume. That is carried, colleagues. I'll now entertain a motion to adopt the proceedings of the Committee of the Whole. If I get moved by Councillor Foxton, seconded by Councillor Wolfe, please use your icons to vote that Council adopt the proceedings of the Committee of the Whole. Colleagues, that is carried. I have no motions of notice that have been provided. There are no notices of motion. There's no unfinished business under other business. Okay,
Chair Redmond, I have other business. I can't queue in quick enough.
Okay, so Councillor James and then Councillor Leggett, and Councillor Rodriguez. Councillor James, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, through you, Chair. And this is for Commissioner Spooner. Just two updates I'm asking for. One, a few of us Kitchener councillors and our local City of Kitchener councillors are wanting an update. I'm wanting an update on the Weber and Sterling and the incidents that have happened there, what interventions, and when are they planned for? Just giving specific kind of timelines if you can. And the other one, again, there was another really bad accident by Trussler Road and the Highway 78. Just wondering if you have timelines for any interventions from MTO, just because that accident, again, recently really bad, and we continue to see increasing incidents there.
Through your chair, Councillor, thank you for the questions. I'll start with the Weber and Sterling intersection. So we will advance a report on June 10th at the SID committee, and then obviously come on June 25th to confirm the interventions there. This is about as fast as we can go with an intervention of this type. Requires a bylaw change. And a reminder that these countermeasures is one of the programs that we will increase funding to with the Road Safety Reserve. So my hope is that we can do that as fast as possible following the June 25th confirmation. That'll be a signage implementation. And a reminder that we also have a complete road redesign project for Weber between Borden and Queen in prior to 2029. So we'll do the immediate countermeasure, and then we'll do the road redesign in the coming years. In terms of Highway 8 and Trussler, we're awaiting an update on the temporary signal implementation from the MTO. Reminder of what we're going to do here. We will put in the temp signals as soon as possible with MTO support. We have a Trussler Road reconstruction project in the 27-28 timeline, and we will then put in permanent signals as part of that project. So I think I had said last time I was asked Q3 was my goal for Highway 8 and Trussler, but I will now work with the MTO to get a more solid timeline on that one. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Councillor Leggett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's about the planning students that are here. It's a pretty boring meeting. I mean, we haven't had anything really active. Come on, you've got to admit, compared to what we normally get, this is pretty boring for them. So I would like a unanimous vote that their prof gives them all an A for even being in attendance tonight.
I don't think you'll have any objections, okay, and it's been seconded.
Councillor Liggett, I'm really glad it was boring. Thank you for the break.
I am too, but, you know.
Councillor Rodriguez.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. And just a question to staff. I don't know who's best to answer this. Certainly a flurry of new provincial changes in the last few weeks. Just wondering if there's any chance that there's going to be any updates either via report or via email, similar to the budget on Bill 17, particularly related to some of the development charges, interventions that are coming.
Wayne, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, I can answer that. Yeah, so we've done some preliminary analysis. We sent around an email to Council to give a bit of a highlights of that. We can certainly do that. We can work more on doing a report that'll highlight some of the things we're learning. Things are still kind of evolving, and we're going to see that over the next several months. But yes, we can certainly put something together with more details as we know them.
Yeah, no, that's great. And yeah, obviously an evolving body of work and certainly an active topic in most municipalities in the province right now around deferrals, changing of time of payment, reducing them for certain classes of development. So again, there's a lot in there, but when the time is right, it'd be great to have some information as it gets solidified or as things get actually enacted, I guess, into legislation.
Yeah, and through the chair, we're looking at what some of those impacts could be. Like there is a lot of potential for changing how we've planned cash flows and different things. So trying to work through that and bring those forward, what those implications could be.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor James?
Yes, thank you. Sorry, through you, Chair, making it interesting for the planning students. Commissioner Spooner, just can you provide any information regarding the updates around the GO station with regards to that honking and any just clarify that is not a regional project?
Through you, Chair, yes, happy to provide some clarity. I feel like it's a regional project. I've been responding to it fairly often. So there is a project that Metrolinx has undertaken as part of the Planning for Two-Way All-Day Go, which is a signal upgrade by the rail yard in Kitchener. And in order to do that, normally at that rail crossing, there is whistle cessation, which means with the safety equipment in place, there is no requirement for the trains to blow their horn. For the last number of weeks, with the project underway, that is not the condition, and so as we know, the trains have been blowing their horns quite often. We've inquired with Metrolinx as to the timing of that. That project is intended to be done by the end of this month. And we had also made some requests about time of day, to which we haven't received a response. And I don't anticipate, being this far into the project, that they would make adjustments to the work that their contractor's doing. So again, for those who are hearing train horns at all hours, anticipating that by the end of this month, May, that will cease and we'll go back to regular operations of that signal. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Councillor Hunick?
Thank you, Chair Edmund. Commissioner Spooner and I had a brief conversation about this offline earlier today, but for the sake of council and for the planning students that are here, you might as well all know that it has been brought to my attention that roundabouts are particularly unsafe for blind or partially sighted residents who have no idea when to cross safely. So if Commissioner Spooner and or his team could report back on different ways that we can make those more safe for people who cannot see when to cross, that would be great.
So we'll go back to Doug, but I do want to point out to anybody in the gallery or listening to this, we do have other commissioners. It just seems that Doug's on the hot seat tonight.
Through you, Chair, I was going to note for the planning students, it seems like transportation is the area you'd like to get into. Councillor, a customer with an accessibility requirement related to their ability to visually navigate a roundabout is one that we will now contemplate. I think it's important we remind ourselves for pedestrians and for vehicles, roundabouts, we've shown are safer. For vehicles, those are normally side collisions instead of head-ons, and because people are slowing down in vehicles coming into roundabouts. However, as you know, we've just put in some devices at 3 locations around the region. We're going to kick off a pilot this fall related to pedestrian safety at roundabouts, which is really related to, I can tell you that it is safer. But I know when we cross, and I do so with my children, it doesn't feel like that because the red light in the protected box really feels like that's the space that I own and I own it on my own and the little walking man tells me that it's mine. And we don't enjoy that same thing in a roundabout. And so there's often that fear of, is that car actually going to stop and recognize me? I think you heighten that when you think about navigating that without the ability to see everything around. So I've already sent this to my team. I get excited by questions and challenges like these. As you know, the roundabout pilot includes 2 elements. It includes raised sidewalks and also flashing lights. And so my question is, can we augment those flashing lights with the auditory signal that often comes along at, signalized crossings?
Yeah.
So,
thanks.
Thank you.
So we've kept you hanging long enough, and we're now going to enact the bylaws first, second, and third readings. If I could have a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor McCabe, seconded by Councillor Foxton. Please use your e-scribe to vote, yes or no. And there are 3 bylaws that we are voting on. Councillor James, have you cast a ballot? Okay, you're in favor? That is carried, colleagues. And now everybody's favorite motion, a motion to adjourn. Councillor Verbanovich and Councillor Nowak. Please use your e-scribe to vote. Surprisingly, that is carried, colleagues. Thank you all very much. Have a safe trip home.